Joining me on the Xfinity mobile call-in line, it is our AHL and prospect correspondent and the managing editor of Broad Street Hockey, Maddie Campbell. What's going on today, Maddie?
Not too much. Glad it's finally not a billion degrees out.
I've read two pieces by you in the last week or so. One over at Broad Street Hockey, the honorable mentions top 25 under 25 piece, and then of course right here at allphly.com a little breakdown of maybe what to expect from some Flyers prospects under new head coach John Snowden. My first question is Snowden's got to get that H out of his name. It's a really cool looking name, Jon, and with the H, it's like, oh, okay.
I'll be sure to
Anyway,
pass that along.
yeah, just, when you get a chance. Anyway, I want to start with the T25U25 because I always look forward to that over at Broad Street Hockey every year. Number 25 came out, I believe today or yesterday.
Yes, today.
It was Samu Tuomaala, but you wrote the piece on the honorable mentions. There's not going to be any spoilers. Don't worry, our friends at BSH. I bet you, though, the Mad Russian is number one. Just a hunch. We'll see.
Bold.
Don't want to give that one away. The real question is like number two, but check out BroadStreetHockey.com over the next few weeks to find out. But the honorable mention piece, you have five Flyers prospects of at varying levels, including Carson Dorwart, who, man, played some NHL hockey last year, and you would think at least has a little bit of a leg up in terms of maybe depth in the bottom six, if nothing else. Some other players, but I'm really interested in Alexis Gendron. I'm just a fan. He was really fun to watch at the rookie games last year. But I just want to ask, who is the player most likely you think to be on the actual list when it's redone next year of the five who missed?
Um, it's a good question, and I think there are a couple of guys who have good chances. Dorwart is definitely one. He was one of the last guys who fell off my individual list just because I think I put a premium on meaningful NHL time, and like he got a couple of games at end of season garbage time, so that doesn't like super move the needle for me. But I mean, if he comes in, has a good camp, earns a spot with the team, it seems like that 4C job is still up for grabs. He could move up my list pretty significantly. I think Heikki Ruohonen is another one who he was the last cut for me. And I
Oh,
think
okay.
yeah, if he has a big season at not at Princeton, oh my God, at Harvard, um,
What's the difference?
yeah, it's one of
Only
those,
Charlie and the Ivy League crowd actually knows the difference between
yeah,
any of them.
one of the fancy pants schools. He's still in like sort of unknown territory. Like he had a pretty good year in the USHL, but they've not been as competitive as they have been in years past. So it's sort of like they have so many guys in the mix that it's hard to find a spot for everybody. But if he makes some noise in his first college season, that's going to be really good for his case. And of course, Gendron is another one who I think has a good chance to move up. He was on my list. I think apparently I'm not doing a good enough job talking him up because I thought he had a fantastic season last year, scoring 20 goals as a rookie. He's one of like only three to have done it, I think, since the team relocated to Allentown. So like he should be up
That's
there, but
yeah, that's the since they've moved really, like especially really since I feel they moved out of Philly, the team has not been known for its offense.
yeah,
And 20 goals, 8 assists, okay. I get it. It's kind of the Cy Young numbers, like 20 goals, 28 points. Not the most impressive season, but the 20 goal mark for a team that did not score a ton. And his birthday is, I think it's December 30th. So he's a 21-year-old. He's right at the minimum age for the AHL. 20 goals, still a pretty good benchmark. That was my biggest surprise. To you, who was the biggest surprise not to make the top 25?
it's Gendron for me.
Just because he's so fun. And
Yeah,
like you get to see him. He's actually in North America, like in the organization.
yeah. But I guess that's what happens when, we had 10 writers or 10 contributors who helped us fill out the final ranking this year. So, like, everybody's criteria is a little bit different. So, we'll see what happens next time, though.
Yeah, that's I'm it's I think it says a lot about the prospect pool that these guys who I think may have been locks, like for how long did we have guys who was like, we don't think they're making the NHL ever, but I don't know how to keep them off the list because I got to get to 25 and things like
Yeah.
that. Um, who was the, now I can't remember, the brother of the two other NHL players that we had, Matthew something. I'm
Oh,
blanking so
Strome.
hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
Matt Strome. It was like, I remember doing the list back when I was with BSH. Like, I am not going to leave him off until he fails. He just keeps succeeding, even though everyone says he's never going to make it because he's too slow. And then eventually he gets to the AHL and we find out it was all true. Um, but now it's, yeah, man, like, who knows what Chiernik or Gendron could be, but right now they look like they could eventually be something.
Yeah, and I think probably this is not the deepest the ranking has been. I think a couple of years ago we had, not to give too much away, we had guys who had played in the NHL down through the 20s. We're not quite there anymore, but I think certainly even down through these honorable mentions, we've got guys who could be legitimately intriguing prospects and have that NHL potential. But I definitely think it speaks to the work that the organization has put in over the last couple of years to really restock the cupboard, if you will, getting things back where they need to be.
No, it's I just reading who didn't make the list and even Tuomaala at 25. I'm like, I don't know. Didn't we think of him as like a pretty decent NHL prospect just not all that not all that long ago? So
Yeah.
it did give me a little optimism about that. Um, just one more on Gendron. It's Alexis Gendron. Is
Yeah.
that it? Okay. Did he not play in the Calder Cup playoffs because he was scratched or because he was injured?
He was hurt. I
Okay.
think it was the last week, the second to last week of the season, he like went barreling into the net, hurt one of his legs, and was out through the rest of the playoffs. I think he would have been able to come back um, if they had advanced to face Charlotte in the that next round. So like tough break there, but yeah, he was injured, so that wasn't like a weird, mysterious scratching situation.
All right. I wanted to be able to throw LePerriere under the bus for that, but if he's hurt, he's hurt. All right. I was like, oh, well, if he had played in the playoffs and scored a few goals, he would have made the list. What are you doing, Lappy? But okay, it was an injury. That's
Yeah,
fair. And I bring up Lappy because your article over at allphly.com. If you're not a diehard, sign up now. I don't know where you're going to get this sort of Phantoms coverage anywhere else, especially in freaking August. But you wrote Flyers prospects poised for step forward under Phantom's new system. And you open with a quote from new head coach John Snowden in his media intro. And he kind of just lays out how this team is going to play. He says the style of play that we have, very aggressive, fast, offensively attacking team. I want the puck. I want to value the puck. I don't want to give it away. I want to hold on to it. You want the puck. You have to earn it back. And he goes on to talk about how they're going to do it. This is exciting because, like I said, the Phantoms, it just seems like have not been an offensively oriented team. And maybe that suppresses the numbers of, well, we need this guy, to kind of be a top 6, top 9 forward. And if he's not producing at the AHL level, why would I think he's going to play that role in the NHL? Do you think this could help out some of those guys maybe find their way higher up into the lineup?
definitely. And I think, listen, like I think if we listen back to Leperriere's sort of similar introductory presser, I think he said a lot of the right things as well. But I feel better about Snowden as being a more experienced coach, to be able to like make those changes actionable. I think that's going to be a big difference maker. But I think they're shifting their play style a little bit, and I think that is going to really benefit the players that they have on the roster, um, in a big way.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like I remember hearing Lappy say this or reading it and being like, "Really?" Because that's not how. I just assume everyone coaches the way they played. Like, well, I played the right way. And thinking of LePerriere, he had a long NHL career, but at no point would anyone be like, "Oh, offensive dynamo in LePerriere, power play specialist." Like that just wasn't what he was. Do you think? Well, how would you describe his actual tactical philosophy though? The last few years coaching the Phantoms.
One of the big things that stood out for me is a sort of, I would say, over reliance on shooting from the points and trying to get rebounds, traffic in front of the net. And now I don't know how much of that was like, that's just the system that he likes and how much of it is personnel driven, because especially last year, they were just so slow up the middle. So it was really hard to play, a really concerted rush forward offense. But I think with some guys like Dorward, with like Kaplan coming into the mix this year, they're going to be able to do that a little bit better. So they had to play like a little bit more of a. It seemed like they were trying to play a cycle heavy style, but they just like didn't seem like they were good enough at checking consistently, so they were often kind of one and done in the offensive zone. So yeah, it was just like, as much as they were preaching getting their fundamentals down throughout the course of the season, it just like never really manifested in a super consistent way,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, and I feel like while we can always blame the coach, and it's kind of our style here, especially with a guy like LePerriere, who we think may not be the right coach for the situation he was in. Like him in player development, think he does a lot of things well. That may not have been one of them, but I will say, I remember seeing Dave Hackstall come into the NHL, come into the Flyers and say, we want to be aggressive, we want to really try to push the pace. And then the first couple weeks he's the head coach, they just couldn't get a stop. So every time they took a risk, it ended up in the back of their net. And then all of a sudden it was, yeah, get the puck deep and get it back to the point. That's it. Like, we're just going
Yeah.
to play a conservative offensive style. So maybe it did have a little bit to do with personnel as well. It's not as if the goaltending's been great in Lehigh Valley either. So maybe that weighed in. But perhaps we're finally going to get a little bit more of a straightforward attacking style offense. And with that, you named a bunch of guys in the article you think could benefit from this. I loved that the first one was Hunter McDonald. But who else do you think has the best chance of taking their game up a level with this new style?
Yeah, I think McDonald's the number one for me, and I think them having a more clearly defined defensive zone structure is going to help someone like him who's like still trying to find his footing at that level. I think it's going to help somebody like Oliver Bonk, who's now moving up. Um, we talked about the sort of the up tempo style that they want to play, the quick transitioning. I think that's going to be pretty major for someone like Bonk, who we know the number one thing that the organization really wants to see from him is like he's got to play at a higher pace if he's going to be successful at the next level. So it seems like this is really built to help him get to that point, which is exciting to see. I know a big thing they're also prioritizing is learning how to play in a sort of when a tighter checking defense is coming at them with guys on their back. That's something that they ran into in the playoffs that they just like didn't seem like they knew what to do with. So I think that's going to help everybody. But I look at someone like an Alexis Gendron, who's a sort of undersized forward who's going to have to learn to get around stuff like that, even though he does have that game breaking speed. I think it's also going to really help someone like Alex Bump if we see him with the Phantoms. Now that's going to be like a big training camp question.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
But no,
Hopefully we don't see him.
if he has to go and develop, there are worse things in the world than this fifth round pick spending some time in the AHL.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
want shiny new toys, and that's a major part of your top 25 article as well. Like, listen, people are just going to be more excited about Jack Nesbitt than they are, a guy we've had for 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
and that always weighs into the rankings. It did for me. Yeah, I think the pace we know they need, like Bonk and Barkey, to step that part of their game up, because while they can skate in the OHL, they didn't have to think fast because they were on what was essentially a super team. Like,
Yeah.
they were the ones who were beating everyone else up, and they could kind of play at a more deliberate pace. In the AHL, you saw it in the playoffs. Listen, the Hershey Bears are like, they might finish like ahead of the Flyers in the standings. Like, they're a professional team. They wouldn't maybe be behind Chicago if they were to get a chance. And you saw that shortcoming after they won the beginning of that series. It kind of turned.
Yeah. And I think like the fact that they're trying to play a million miles an hour right off the bat might make the first month or so of the season like pretty ugly for guys like Bonk and Barkey, but they're going to have no choice but to figure out how to play in that style. And I think it's going to be good for them in the long run, even if it's a little ugly at first.
Who else do you think could maybe benefit from this new style, like getting up the ice faster, attacking, getting on the forecheck, yes, but like not just depending on the rush, kind of mixing it in and the cohesion with the NHL style, like you pointed out.
Yeah, I think it's going to help the kind of the defense group as a whole. Like somebody I talked about was Ethan Sampson, where we saw him take a step forward offensively, but he was like, he was shooting a lot more. He was getting a lot of shots through, which is awesome, but we didn't really see him unlocking a whole lot of playmaking. So I think if they can add that element through, like throughout the lineup, getting more offense from the defense in like a little bit more dynamic of a way, is going to go a long way.
Do you think there was between, I mean, there's a disconnect between John Tortorella and everybody a little bit. Even if they agree, he's going to disagree just to do it. But do you think there was maybe a little bit of a disconnect between what the Flyers were doing under Torts and what was happening at the AHL level? Because I feel like we just haven't seen a ton of call-ups. We saw guys like the veterans, like Tony Dick, who we all love, but he's like 28, 29 years old. He's just a veteran that you can plug and play and he can handle himself. He's not a prospect that, okay, here's an opportunity. Do you think maybe there wasn't that sort of cohesion and that held some guys back from getting calls?
Yeah, 100%. And I know that's something that Snowden also talked about, is like a really big point of emphasis between him and Talkett is getting the systems on the same getting on the same page there. I think he said they're going to have like a little bit of creativity to like do what they want offensively, but the defensive zone structure is going to be the same. So that should make the transitions a little bit easier. They're going to have it going down to Reading as well is all going to be the same. I think, and the other thing is like, I think it was working against them last season in the reverse a little bit. I think about a guy like Emil Andre who like generally looked pretty okay, I think, in the NHL, even if it was, he had some moments of looking like, he's got some stuff to work on. He would go back down and then look like a complete disaster for his first couple of games. Like he didn't know what he was supposed to be doing in the defensive zone. And like it took a few games for him to like just let instinct take back over and he was okay. So I think it works both ways. Having cohesion between the levels is going to be good for everybody because like not every call up stays the whole season for the
Exactly, yeah.
NHL. They need them to be okay when they move back down as well.
And that's always, I feel like, an Emil Andre, I think, perfect example. Comes up, looks pretty good, has a couple rough games, gets sent down, and then doesn't look like a guy who should be in the NHL at all, playing in the AHL after we just saw him look pretty good in the NHL, at least for most of it. Like, and then you read in, oh, is he pouting? Is he unhappy? And like, listen, he shouldn't be happy. I want him to want to be in the NHL, but like maybe part of it is just he had to do something completely different from what he's been doing for the last month.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a killer for him, I think.
Yeah, so I'm definitely excited. I'm definitely optimistic about Snowden and maybe what the Phantoms could start to look like as we have more actual prospects join this team and the possibility of some injury call-ups, not just being, AHL vets who, okay, we can trust them, but dude's getting a little bit of a shot, maybe an early shot. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be exciting for sure.
All right, that is our AHL and prospect correspondent, Maddie Campbell, joining us here on the Shootout. Thank you so much for your time, Maddie. Where can people find your work?
Over at Broad Street Hockey, like you said, we're going to be working through our top 25, under 25 ranking over these next few weeks, running up to training camp and a whole lot of other fun stuff. So pop on by.
All right, make sure you read all Maddie's stuff. Make sure you're a diehard over at allphly.com. And make sure you mark your calendars. Time change beginning Tuesday, September 2nd, the day after Labor Day. The main PHLY Flyers show, the one that began at noon all summer, after Labor Day, 4 p.m. on non-game days. Make sure everyone marks their calendar. Just got to keep telling everyone.
Back to
So,
business.
yeah, back to work, I guess. All right, thank you so much, Maddie.
Thanks for having me.